Hey, I'm back again. I know. It's the second week in a row that I've posted. This is crazy. Anyway, I had a lot of fun doing my mid-year reading wrap up last week and just kind of talking about books and the books that I've read and stuff like that. And like I said in that video, I like sharing my opinions about things. And I like getting my personal opinions out there. I talk about my opinions to people in my life, and I know that they're tired of hearing it. So now I get to subject you guys to it. So congrats, you should feel honored. So today, the opinion that I'm going to force you to listen to, or not force you, you clicked on this video, so you know what you signed up for. You can't tell from the title of this video is what I consider my unpopular ACOTAR opinions. The reason why I say what I consider my unpopular ACOTAR opinions is because this is just from what I've seen online. I don't feel like a lot of people have these opinions, with the exception of Lily, my wonderful friend, who I mentioned in my last video. She is going to be mentioned a lot in these videos because we read the same books and we talk a lot, and I love her. So, but she has basically the same opinions as me. She didn't really think that these were unpopular, and I didn't think they were that unpopular at the time. But now that I've scrolled through TikTok, I've finished all of the books, so I don't have to scroll away for spoilers for at least the ACOTAR series. I mentioned in the last video that I was in the middle of reading Throne of Glass. Still am. It's been a lot of fun. She didn't think that they were unpopular opinions until I told her that they were. So I decided that I'm going to make this video. I will preface this by saying all of these are my opinion. If you disagree with my opinion, go off. Love that for you. But again, this is my opinion and this is what I believe. And I'm stubborn, so you're not going to change my mind. So if you do disagree, not to be mean, but argue with the wall, because I don't care. Yes, I have quotes to back up all of my opinions. So come at me with that same energy in the comments if you're going to try and fight me. I also should say, there is going to be spoilers for the entire ACOTAR series. Okay, so if you haven't finished it, don't watch this video. Come back when you've read all of them. So let's get right into it. No more dilly-dallying, okay? My first unpopular opinion with the ACOTAR series is, personally, I don't think what Rhys did to Feyre under the mountain was that bad. I don't think it was terrible. I had my little sister read the first ACOTAR book, and this was when I was in the thick of A Court of Mist and Fury, and she was like, I hate Rhys. I hate what he did. I hate how he essentially tortured her and took advantage of her and stuff like that. And I was like, you just don't get him. You don't understand him. He's great. And she was just so concerned for me because I was like, he's not that bad. What are you talking about, babe? You're wrong. And here are my reasonings why. Because when you really think about it, most of the stuff that he did to Feyre or to Tamlin or really anyone was to just kind of try and keep them safe. As you should know if you've read all of the ACOTAR books, Rhys has a very weird way of protecting the people that he cares about, like sacrificing himself in order to protect Valaris, becoming Amarantha's side piece to protect his friends and his family. He has a weird way of protecting people that he loves. So that was his weird, messed up way of protecting Feyre. And a lot of people mention how he essentially drugged her with the fairy wine when he would have her come down for all of the parties and banquets and stuff, essentially have her dance all over him. He was drugging her so she wouldn't remember it. He was he knew that Amarantha was going to torture her in ways besides just the trials. So he was trying to do it to minimize the trauma that she was going to get from this. So, I mean, I think that all in all, yeah, it's terrible for him to drug someone, but he was just trying to minimize the casualties. I guess. Also, the things that he does under the mountain, he's kind of trying to walk the line of keeping up the facade of him being evil and him really being on Amarantha's side. And I think to an extent he did think of himself as evil, so he may have took things a little bit too far. He was there for 50 years And I'm sure within those 50 years, he did some messed up stuff and he did some terrible things simply to keep up the ruse that he was into Amarantha and he was like all for all of that. He was walking the line in between being evil and like not like losing himself, the keeping up the facade, but still trying to like do things within his power that he could do in order to help Feyre. Like he had spent 50 years with Amarantha. He knew she was an evil person. He knew she was evil and there were no lines that she would not cross. And he didn't want his mate to become a casualty of that war. He didn't want her, not even if she didn't die, but like mentally become a casualty of that war. He didn't want that for her. So he was trying to like make it to where at least she could like not remember some things or maybe even just like blame it on the fairy wine. Something like that. He was just trying to lessen the blow. Like he said, in A Court of Mist and Fury, my source material, on page 523, he says, right then, deep down, I think I knew what you were, but I didn't myself admit it, because if there was the slightest chance that you were my mate, they would have done such unspeakable things to you, Feyre. He knew that if Amarantha knew anything going on between them, or like anything going on between her and Tamlin, even though like she knew Feyre was in love with Tamlin, but like knew the extent of everything that was going on with Feyre and Tamlin, or Feyre and Rhys, or how Rhys felt about Feyre, the unspeakable would happen to her. So he was trying to protect her. That's really my only opinion. He was just trying to protect her. It wasn't that bad. That's what I just keep reiterating. So thanks. Also, that is like the fact that he knew that Feyre was his mate and that like Amarantha would kill Feyre if Amarantha suspected anything with anyone in Feyre. She would kill Feyre immediately. So that's why he was so fucking pissed at Tamlin, which don't even get me started on Tamlin. We will circle back to him. At Tamlin, when he got a chance alone with Feyre, instead of trying to come up with a plan for her to escape, something like that, he said, what if we made out? What if we just kissed? Please be so for real. You're kidding. Okay, whatever. My next opinion is gonna start some fights, and I know it is. Nesta cared about Feyre. Nesta cared about Feyre an equal amount, but she stopped showing Feyre that she cared about her or trying to like express the love and care that she had for Feyre because Feyre always dismissed it. She was always just like throwing it back in Nesta's face. So she just stopped trying, which I get that. Like the first thing that I want to point out whenever anyone says that Nesta did not give two craps about Feyre is when she got taken by Tamlin in the first book, Nesta almost died trying to go find Feyre. Did we forget that? I didn't find the quote in the first book when they talked about it, but Nesta literally, or no, it was Elain. Elain talked to Feyre about how Nesta went to go try and go to their aunt's house is what Elain said because she was still under the glamour, but still. But Nesta came back after like a day because it was too cold. Her wagon broke down or like the horse abandoned her, whatever. But she went and she almost died. When they said that, I was like, Nesta doesn't hate her that much. I never hated Nesta. It's because I'm an intellectual. Also, another reason why Nesta probably stopped showing that she cared so much for Feyre or kind of started having this disdain towards Feyre was for Nesta's entire childhood. She was told that she was the one in charge of her sisters. She was going to be the breadwinner. She was going to be the one who helped her family. And then when her mom dies and they lose all of their money, Feyre just randomly decides that she's going to be the literal breadwinner and hunter, but also suddenly in charge of the family's expenses and suddenly like the man of the household just took that upon herself. Like no one asked her that. Yes, their mom technically asked Feyre to like look out for her sisters, but we have no way of knowing that that's what she meant because their mom did not know that they were going to lose all of their money. She just meant like look out for each other. She probably said that to Nesta and Elain and Feyre. She just meant, hey, look out for each other. Have each other's backs. That's probably it. Not now you control the family. Also, Feyre literally says in ACOTAR that she just wants her sisters to get out. Like that is her goal in life. Her goal in life is to get her sisters out of this house. More source material. So, A Court of Thorns and Roses, page 17. Nesta says, I thought all you wanted was for us to get out of the house, to marry off, me and Elain, so you could have enough time to paint your glorious masterpieces. She did not keep it a secret that she hated her sisters. If I knew that my sister hated me and my sister did not make it a secret or like nice, if my sister wasn't nice to me at all, she literally only saw me as an inconvenience and another mouth to feed, I would be like, Who are you? I'd get mad too, and I'd probably be really mean to her. So I get you, Nesta. Also, it's not like Nesta wasn't trying to get out of the house. Like, she was aware that Feyre wanted Nesta and Elain to get out of the house and get married. She tried her hardest to secure a marriage proposal, even though the guy that she was pursuing was a dick. And everyone knew he was a dick because if you go, again, A Court of Thorns and Roses, page 19, this is when they're at dinner, and Nesta is talking about how, Thomas wants to marry her. Feyre pitches a fit because he's a woodcutter's son, but Nesta won't even help Feyre cut wood, which we'll get to that later. Their dad says if it is love, like if Nesta and Thomas are in love. Feyre says it can't be love, not on his part, not with his wretched family. I've seen the way he acts around the village. There is not one thing he wants from her. Feyre knew that Thomas was terrible. So you can only assume that everyone else knew Thomas was terrible. Nesta knew Thomas was terrible. And she was still like, I'll make that sacrifice for my sister. And people say she's selfish. And I will fight people on that because she's not. Another thing, this isn't really anything where like Nesta cared more about Feyre. It just really made me mad because like this would just be another thing that pissed me off about my sister if this happened to me. It's the whole shoes thing we see in, again, A Court of Thorns and Roses, page 13. This is after Feyre came back with the wolf pelt. And they're talking about what they're going to do with the money. Elain says, I'd love a new cloak. Elain said at last with a sigh. At the same moment, Nesta rose and declared, I need a new pair of boots. I kept quiet, knowing better than to get in the middle of one of their arguments. I glanced at Nesta's still shiny pair by the door. Beside hers, my two small boots were falling apart at the seams, held together only by fraying laces. Well, remember that, because then we go to A Court of Silver Flames. Then we go to A Court of Silver Flames. It is on page 563. We go to A Court of Silver Flames and page 563. Nesta and Cassian are back at their old cottage. The cottage they lived in with their dad. They're just talking about like everything that's there. This is from Nesta's point of view. It says, there in the corner sat a pair of worn, half-rotted shoes. Her shoes. One of them was bursting at the toe seams. She'd worn these shoes in public and could still remember mud and stones creeping in. Brand new, my butt. This is the thing about getting books and like one character's point of view. The first 3 books are only in Feyre's point of view. So we only get the sisters from her point of view. We only get things that happen from Feyre's point of view. Feyre thought that Nesta had brand new boots when... Did she? Did she? The answer is no, she did not. Which is another reason why Nesta probably pulled back with her affection towards Feyre. Is I personally always got the feel that Feyre thought she was so much better than everyone. She, especially her sisters and her dad, she just thought she was so much better than them and so much more equipped for everything. Really only looked for one quote that kind of supported my opinion on the fact that Feyre thought she was a lot better than everyone. And it is, again, from the very first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's on page 10. This is Elain asking, will it take you long to clean it? The wolf pelt. Feyre thinks, me, not her, not the others. I'd never once seen their hands sticky with blood or fur. I only learned to prepare and harvest my skills thanks to the instructions of others. Hey babe, Feyre, have you ever thought maybe I should teach my family how to do this? Have you ever thought that? Have you ever thought maybe just like explaining it to them? Maybe getting some help? Also, can't really, like, she might have, okay? You can get mad at me. She might have mentioned that she tried to teach them, whatever. But like, Nesta and Elain were not taught to rough it in the slightest. Nesta was like, I think 12 when her mom died. And then when they lost all of their fortunes. So like her formative years, her like childhood, she was very affluent. And she really only learned how to be a lady of society. She was not cut out to rough it, okay? Also, you can tell which copies like I read the physical version of and which ones I read in a different format, because this is my copy of A Court of Silver Flames, while this you can barely see on this is my copy of A Court of Thorns and Roses. So the only one that doesn't count for that is A Court of Mist and Fury, and that is because I had a fully annotated copy of A Court of Mist and Fury, but then it got stolen. So I had to finish the book on a new copy, and I was very sad. I cried about it. So that's the whole thing. So now we're going to move on to what I think is the most controversial opinion that me and Lily have about ACOTAR, the series as a whole. I guess unpopular, because I don't see a lot of people saying this. I see a lot of people saying the exact opposite. I don't think Elain is boring, and I don't think she's lame. I know, shocking. Just because Elain wants a simple life does not mean that she's boring or useless. Because Elain says in A Court of Silver Flames, page 232, this is when she's yelling at Nesta. They're arguing about Elain trying to help them find the dread trove. Why, Elain demanded, shall I tend to my little garden forever? When Nesta flinched, Elain said, you can't have it both ways. You cannot resent my decision to lead a small, quiet life while also refusing to let me do anything greater. That line right there, this quote, is the equivalent. This is Elain's equivalent of Meg March saying to Joe, just because my dreams are different than yours does not make them any less important. And she's so right. Just because she wants to be cute with her little garden does not make her any less of an important character or an interesting person. She has duality. She's a seer. Also, I feel like we're forgetting this. She's a freaking seer. She can see the future. How is she boring? She's just scared of her own mind. Another reason why you should not think Elain is boring in the slightest is because Cassian, the Lord of Bloodshed, the King of the Bastards, said in A Court of Silver Flames on page 580, he says, he'd never once in the 2 years he'd known her found Elain to be plain. Even Cassian does not think that she's boring or plain or useless. So why should you? Why should you? Why should you have a different opinion? Do you think you have better judgment than Cassian? Bold statement, but okay. Another reason why she's not boring, if her being a seer isn't enough, if her literally telling people that just because she wants to live a simple life does not make her any less of a person, doesn't change your mind that she's not boring and not useless. I'm going to draw your attention to A Court of Wings and Ruin, page 654, where this is right after Elain has sneak attacked the King of Hybern, might I remind you, with Truth Teller. It says, the cauldron purred in Elain's presence as the King of Hybern slumped to his knees, clawing at the knife jutting through his throat. Elain backed away a step. So, well, yes, I'd love to give that kill to Nesta, and she deserves it. That's her thing. She did finish him off. But it would not have been possible. It wouldn't, she would not have been able to the King of Hybern if it were not for Miss Elain Archeron, the Fawn herself, the seer herself. It wouldn't have been possible without Elain. We need to give her that credit. We really do. Continuing my defense for my sweet little angel, Elain Archeron. All of you little rats who say that Elain should live in the Spring Court and she belongs in the Spring Court, I hate you. This is also piggybacking on all of the people who think Tamlin and Elain are going to end up together because Tamlin's the High Lord of the Spring Court. I will fight you. No, she does not. She doesn't belong with him. She doesn't belong in the Spring Court. Yes, I do know where the people who think that Elain belongs in the Spring Court, I know where you get your opinion from. I know that in A Court of Silver Flames, on page 455, Nesta, she says, Elain would love this place. So many flowers, all in bloom, so much green, the light, vibrant green of new grass, so many birds singing, and such warm, buttery sunshine. Nesta felt like a storm cloud standing amid it all, but Elain, the Spring Court, had been made for someone like her. She's comparing herself. Nesta is comparing herself to all of this life and this beauty, and she feels like the exact opposite. She's not saying that Elain is meant in the Spring Court. Also, perspective. Like I said before, we get a skewed perspective of Nesta and Elain in the first 3 books because we're getting everything from Feyre's point of view. This is in Nesta's point of view. We don't know anything about Elaine's opinion because no one asks. We don't know her input, so we can't say that. How do we know that? How do we know that she would? I feel like she'd hate it, both living in the Spring Court and being with Tamlin. And we're continuing with my opinions about Elain. This is more Elain adjacent, but still. I don't think Lucien, however you want to say his name, I don't think he truly likes Elain. I just think he enjoys the idea of having a mate. I think this is because he was so sure, like so dead set, that the girl that his father and brother in front of him was his mate. He was so like 100% certain that that was her. She was his mate. He's never going to have anyone again. He's not going to have any sort of romantic connection again. Then when he figures out that Elain is his mate, which bad timing, bro, telling her when she just got out of the cauldron. Really? Okay. Kind of bold, kind of insensitive. Anyway, we're not talking about that. He was just so in shock that he actually, like, he has a mate and he actually has one or another one in his mind, that he wants to make it work because it didn't work last time. The girl that he thought was his mate and that he loved so much and so passionately died unexpectedly and tragically. In his mind, this is like his second chance at love. So he doesn't want to ruin it. He doesn't want to mess it up. And I get that, but I think he will do anything to make this mating bond work out, even if it means stopping Elain's happiness or kind of like compromising on what Elain wants. As long as it works out with them, as long as they end up together, he's good and he likes it. He doesn't care how the dynamic is or anything like that. I don't like that for my girly, Elain. And I know, now you're wondering, Jules, if you don't like Lucien and Elain together, who do you want Elain to end up with? Because as we know in any Sarah J. Maas book, the girlies have to have a romantic partner. They have to have some sort of romantic interest. And again, this will start some fights. Personally, I think Az and Elain make sense together. They make so much sense together, and I love it so much. I know most people say that if it's 3 sisters and 3 brothers end up with each other, that it's kind of boring and it's kind of predictable. But have you ever thought maybe I don't care? Have you ever thought maybe I want it to be that way? Have you ever thought maybe that would be super cute and I love it? And I'm a sucker for any sort of group that is just a whole bunch of couples together and they all hang out and they're besties. Have you ever thought about that? No, because you're selfish. But my legit reasoning for this and why I think that Az and Elain, they make so much sense together is because Azriel is honestly one of the only people who listens and truly understands Elain, and vice versa. Elain is one of the only people who truly understands Azriel. Most people just let him be his quiet little emo self off into the corner, and they're just kind of like, that's Az. She gets him. She understands him. And she loves him. So I'm going to go through some stuff through the last 3 books that made me become their biggest fan, their biggest supporter, and honestly, their biggest defender. We're going to go to A Court of Wings and Ruin. This is page 560. This is just something really quick that just made me think, there's something going on there when I was first reading this. It's right after Feyre had that like little tingle or whatever because she knew that something was happening to the cauldron. They were doing something to the cauldron. And everyone's like, crazy. It's like you and your sisters can sense when something's happening with the cauldron because you were made by the cauldron. And I think, Azriel's just right next to Feyre and Amren. And he just asks softly, what about Elain? Where's Elain? And then everyone was like, where is Elain? Oh my God. He was the only one who first thought about her. His first thought was, where's my baby girl? Then we'll continue on. Same thought. It's on page 563. From the shadows near the entrance to the tent, Azriel said, as if in answer to some unspoken debate, I'm getting her back. Nesta slid her gaze to the shadow singer. Azriel's hazel eyes glowed golden in the shadows. Nesta said, then you will die. Azriel only repeated, rage glazing that stare. I'm getting her back. And he did. And he did get his girl back. And that made me giggle and kick my feet and just love him even more. Yes, I'm a Cassian girly, but Azriel's my number 2. And they're like neck and neck, dude. Depends on how I'm feeling that day, honestly. And you want to know what really sealed the deal with falling in love with Az? Especially in this book. It's on page 610. It is. This is Truth Teller, he told her softly. I won't be using it today, so I want you to. He gave her Truth Teller, first of all. Then he says, it has never failed me once. The shadow singer said, the midday sun devouring the black blade. Some people say it's magic and will always strike true. It will serve you well. Pardon me? You're gonna tell me that he doesn't love her? He does. And argue with a wall if you disagree with me. More of the things that made me fall in love with them together come from the book that some people skip, Witch Criminal. Also, it has these scenes. It is in A Court of Frost and Starlight, and it is on page 186. It's when they're opening gifts for Solstice, and Azriel opens Elain's gift. And Elain says, I had Maja make it, Elain explained. Azriel's brows narrowed at the mention of the family's preferred healer. It's a powder to mix with any drink. Silence. Elain bit her lip, then smiled sheepishly. It's for the headaches everyone always gives you, since you rub your temples so often. Silence again. Azriel then tipped his head back and laughed. I'd never heard such a sound, deep and joyous. Cassian and Rhys joined him, the former grabbing the glass bottle from Azriel's hand, exclaiming, brilliant. She just gets him. She gets him. She notices him. She understands him. She gets him. So she understands him. He also understands her, listens to her, loves her. This, again, comes from A Court of Frost and Starlight. It's on page 197. This is after everyone's left after the solstice celebrations. Feyre says, Azriel and Elain remained in the sitting room, my sister showing him the plans she sketched to expand the garden in the back of the townhouse, using the seeds and tools my family had given her tonight. Whether he cared about such things, I had no idea, but I sent him a silent prayer of thanks for his kindness before Rhys and I slipped upstairs. One, Feyre, that wasn't him being kind. He loves her and he just wants to hear her talk. He's okay and he loved doing it and he wanted to. And where was Lucien for that? He left. Also, I need to point out that SJM has said herself, she is a sucker for cliches, but also we know from experience as her readers, she loves a good retelling. It's like her specialty. If you haven't read the Books A Million bonus chapter in A Court of Silver Flames, which is the Azriel bonus chapter, please, for the love of God, read it. It's amazing. And it will drive this point home even more because she's every pairing that SJM has made in her books, especially in the ACOTAR books. They are another form of some other fictional couple or some other couple in literature. We had Feyre and Tamlin, which they were Beauty and the Beast. Obviously, A Court of Thorns and Roses was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, or a Howl's Moving Castle retelling. Then we have Rhys and Feyre, which is Hades and Persephone. Some people like to say that it's not, when it literally is. A Court of Mist and Fury is a Hades and Persephone retelling. He takes her for a week out of each month, or 3 months out of the year. Then we have Cass and Nesta. Their book isn't really a retelling, but the couple that they most resemble is Hercules and Meg. Think about it. So it is only right that the next couple that she puts the last Archeron sister in is going to seem like some other couple in literature. Azriel and Elain are Romeo and Juliet because you get such Romeo and Juliet vibes from Azriel's bonus chapter in A Court of Silver Flames. Unbelievable Romeo and Juliet vibes. I was kind of like, it kind of does. But Lily, she is a Shakespeare girly. Like, she loves Shakespeare. I'll insert a photo of her annotated version of Romeo and Juliet because I'm not even kidding. She looks insane. She's read it so many times. She loves it so much. So if she's saying that they are giving Romeo and Juliet vibes, oh, you bet your sweet ass they are. Also, this is just another thing. Azriel's shadows react to Elain. That has to mean something. That has to mean something. It just does. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to get stressed out. My next opinion is that Tamlin should have died at the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin. One, it would have been the perfect redemption arc for him. Think about it. He betrayed everyone at the end of A Court of Mist and Fury, and he sold out Feyre's sisters. And he tried to weirdly redeem himself throughout A Court of Wings and Ruin when he was trying to not let Hybern go through his court, but also still kind of letting Hybern go through his court. It's the whole thing. It would have been the perfect full circle thing, him finally sacrificing himself for all of these people that he's wronged. And if he would have just sacrificed himself to kill the King of Hybern or one of his goons or something, it would have been perfect. It would have been a great redemption. People would have mourned him. Feyre would have been like, oh, I guess we kind of underestimated him. It would have been great for me, not for him, not for Tamlin, because he would have been dead. But also, yes, I know, then technically the Spring Court would be without a High Lord, but it kind of already is now Because they said in A Court of Silver Flames, he's just a beast. His court is in disarray. And the Autumn Court thinks that they can take it over and then invade the human lands. Which, don't even get me started on the Autumn Court. It also, if Tamlin would have died and they wouldn't have had like a High Lord for the Spring Court, I think it would have been really interesting to see Lucien inherit the Spring Court from Tamlin. And then Elain kind of like freak out because Lucian's technically his son, so theoretically he would inherit the day court. I feel like that would just be a fun little conflict. Be like, well, you can't be High Lord of 2 courts, so like what's going on? And then like Elain would have to like expose himself as Lucian's dad. That would be a whole thing. I feel like that would be really cool and fun to see. So, and the only way to do that is for Tamlin to get out of the way. On my last 3 opinions, this opinion is, it's kind of short and sweet. I just have a few things to say. It's just that it was really, really messed up for the inner circle to keep that information from Feyre about her pregnancy in Silver Flames. I don't care how much stress it would have put on her in the pregnancy. She needed to know. She should have known. I don't know why they made such a big deal about telling her, because it wasn't like she was mad that Nesta told her. She was mad at everyone for knowing and not telling her. My source is, of course, A Court of Silver Flames, where this happens, where she has the conversation with Cassian after Cassian has taken Nesta out of Velaris because Rhys threatened her because he's a big baby. Cassian says, I'm sorry you had to learn of it. Feyre says, I'm not. I'm furious with all of you. I understand why you didn't tell me, but I'm furious. Cassian says, well, we're furious with Nesta. Feyre says, she had the courage to tell me the truth. Cassian says, she told you the truth to hurt you. Feyre says, perhaps, but she was the only one who said anything. See? She wasn't pissed that Nesta told her. So none of y'all should be pissed that Nesta told her. She was pissed that everyone knew about it. Everyone. Rhys told the boys before he told his wife. Really? I'd be so pissed off if my significant other told his boys something about my well-being before he even told me. Also, I feel like if they would have told her, she probably could have helped in some way. So my next opinion, people debate about this a lot online. I think that Az knew that Mor was bisexual, but preferred women. I think he knew. I think he kind of had like an inkling. Didn't really want to out her because he's an ally and he supports the gays. Because when we meet Azriel and Cassian, and like Cassian tells Feyre about the whole dynamic with Azriel, Cassian, and Mor, Cassian describes it as Azriel has never like forced Mor to make a decision or forced her to like express her feelings for him or anything like that. He's very much sat off to the side. Obviously, we know that that's kind of like evolved over the like 500 years that they've known each other or whatever. But I think that was just like he fell in love with Mor, but then figured out that she was probably a little, and he said, she hasn't told anyone though. Like no one knows. So I'm not going to tell people that, or I'm not going to make it obvious that I'm like pulling back because then people are going to like want to know why and things like that. So he was just kind of like pulling back a little, making it seem like it's because he didn't want to put a lot of pressure on her. And so this is my last, and I think quite possibly my most controversial opinion about ACOTAR. And that is, drumroll please, the bad boys are not white. Like they're not. The reason why I have this opinion and the reason why I think it is unpopular is simply because I see people make fan casts of all of these characters because it is being made into a Hulu show, I think. I don't know if that's still going on, but people said that it was. They're making fan casts, and most of the people that they choose for Azriel, Rhys, and Cassian are white, and they're not white, guys. They're just not. Okay, I will give it to you. In the first book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, page 189. His short black hair gleamed like raven's feathers, offsetting his pale skin and blue eyes so deep they were violet, even in the firelight. They twinkled with amusement as he beheld me. Yes, she described him as pale, but have we ever thought he has spent 50 years under a mountain? Hasn't really seen the sun. How can you keep your cool tanned complexion if you haven't really seen the sun? You haven't gotten a lot of vitamin D. Your melanin's kind of just gone. You can look pale and not be pale. That's another thing. Another thing is starvation can cause you to look pale. And just because he was Amarantha's right-hand dude and side piece does not mean he was living large. does not mean he was living lavish and eating a whole bunch of feasts and stuff, being well fed. So you can be pale and not be white. Another reason why I think that the Bat Boys, because I'm just saying this for all Illyrians, I'm taking this as like the Illyrian race is not white. And Rhys is half Illyrian, so he's mixed. Okay? So we'll go to A Court of Mist and Fury. It'll be page 372. As Feyre says, Rhys still knelt, wings drooping across the white sheets, head bowed, his tattoos stark against his golden skin. Golden skin. Golden. I am white. Would you describe me as having golden skin? No, babe. I'm white. Rhys, my man. He's tan. Azriel and Cassian are probably a little bit darker than him. And I say this because we'll go to the descriptions that Feyre has for Cassian and Azriel a little bit into the page before that. So it's page 157 and 158. It says, if Rhysand's mother had also been Illyrian, then these people were blessed with unnatural good looks. Like their High Lord, the males, warriors, were dark-haired, tan skin. Tanned skin. Tan skin. Not white. In my mind, Illyrians are like the Prithian equivalent of like Greek because, and thank you for Lily for pointing this out to me because I just thought of this off the top of my head, but she said the word Illyrian comes from the Greek word Illyria. So I mentioned the fan casts. And since I have problems with other people's fan casts, what would my fan cast be? And I have to say, not too sure, honestly. The way that I pictured these guys is very much like fan art that I've seen of them. Probably insert some of my favorite fan art of them. Hee hee. So I just kind of think of them as like their fan art, but just more human. So I don't really know what actors would be attractive enough to live up to that. So I'm not really sure, but I'll brainstorm a little. And if I think of anything, I'll put it up right here, who I think should play them. Yeah, so those are my opinions. And that's all I really have to say on this for now. This was a lot of fun to make. I loved compiling all of these quotes and stuff like that and sources to back up my opinions from this. So I definitely enjoyed this type of video and getting to go back through like this book because I haven't read this book in like a year. So getting to go back through A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Wings and Ruin and just kind of like skimming through and rereading these to a certain extent was so much fun. So I'll probably be making some more videos like this. I think my next video is probably going to be my July reading wrap up. Look forward to that. I hope you have a great day and I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. I will see you next Friday. Love you.